Alright, live on LinkedIn. Good morning, Mr. Tarun. Good morning. How you doing? Sorry to keep you waiting. Sorry to keep you waiting. Good morning and then good morning. I liked it. I liked it. How you doing? What's up? I hope everything is great. And without further ado, I guess we should begin the show that we deserve, right? The show that we deserve. It's time to start. Sorry about this. Oh God, it's very awkward. Yeah, perfect. Let us begin. Bum bum bum. Bum bum. Mr. Jindal. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, you got to follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does. As it always does, every day without fail. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having hot water. With some black pepper in it. Very good for me. And here we go. I just realized the cup says Fufa. Most awesome Fufa. Well, god damn it. Now that was amazing. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you're not alone. It says that we're in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Let's begin the analysis. 6 times the charm. 6 times the harm. Wordplay. 6 times the charm. 3rd times the charm. To 6th time is the harm. Pain piles up on Dalal Street. Markets end in the red for 6th week in a row. A first in 5 years. More pain seen ahead. The Sensex closed below 80,000 for the first time since May 9th. Now, the market is of course going to be tight. It's going to be hard for the foreseeable future. However, you know what happened to Ather stock yesterday? When the market was declining, you know what happened to Ather stock? Did you check it? Did you check it, guys? You didn't? It went up 6.5%. Since I told you about Ather's story, it's been 1 week and a couple of days, 1 week and 3-4 days, I don't remember exactly. But yeah, since I've told you about that share, it has gone up roughly 25-30%. You know, when the market has been tumbling. But don't tell SEBI, okay? Don't tell SEBI. Because I don't want to get my ass kicked. For no reason. For no reason. Right? But that's what happened. Speaking of what happened, IT stocks hit the most in July. Now what did I tell you? What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? What happened? Just like I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. right? So IT is under great stress. In fact, IT has brought down the market by a lot. And then, of course, the overall stress is going on. But we've been able to navigate through the waters. Like, even as, like, let's not talk about trading, okay? Let's not talk about stock trading. If we're not interested in that, it's great. We're all entrepreneurs here, we all work here. So, trading is not our job. But just for commentary's sake, we got everything right. Until now, uh, our our predictions, let's say, have been very, very tight, right? So IT is hurt the most. FPI sell off continues in IT. There's a comment by Mr. Chandrasekhar, was watching quantum superposition today. Have put a swing trade in IT as a gamble. Let's see what happens now. Well, swing trade. So, FPI sell off is continuing with IT. Now, this is especially, it's just, in Madam Dorothy Parker's words, what fresh hell is this? Nobody saw this coming as far as India and US relationship is considered. Uh, Trump's first term was extremely pro India, right? He blocked Pakistan's funds. He withdrew in a lot of areas. He supported India. He led to a lot of investments in India. He was totally focused on China, and India was being looked at as a counterweight to China. That was the obvious equation, and all of that has been reversed, and every bit of rhetoric is against India. That doesn't make sense. So if you notice, I didn't call him Mr. Trump anymore. It's very hard, uh, you know, for what it's worth, to respect Trump right now. It's very hard. Speaking of what's hard, even the administration, Trump administration people, are having a tough time trying to justify what happens. So there's a CNBC reporter. She asked Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro is the advisor. He's said to be the architect of the tariff policy. Now they asked that why did you tariff India, right? Because China buys more Russian oil than India. So why did you tariff India to such an extent? And he said that we've already tariffed China to 50%. And we can't tariff China more because then it starts hurting us, right? So we tariff India. But she said you tariffed China not as as a reciprocal move. It wasn't anything to do with Russia, right? So no sanctions on China as far as the Russian oil buying is considered, because that stance of China getting tariff 50% was a reciprocal trade move, right? And he said we've already tapped it to the max. We can't harm China more without harming ourselves. But India is using US dollars to buy Russian oil. Then Russia uses those US dollars to fight Ukraine. And then we also have to pay US dollars to defend Ukraine. So that math isn't working out, and we've got to fight. And what we are doing to with India is to ask to is essentially asking them to stop buying Russian oil. And then the reporter pushed, but nothing for China. And that said, I gave you a pretty good answer. So that's not working out, man. And all eyes on Mr. Putin now. When he has a meeting with Mr. Trump next week, Mr. Modi met Mr. Putin very recently. Uh, no clue on what happened. No clue on what trade talks happened, because there's nothing that Russia can do to alleviate this situation, because Russia isn't much of an economy consumption wise. It's a good supplier of oil, but that's about it, right? So India's problem, the consumption problems, cannot be solved by Russia, unfortunately. Speaking of moves that the traders, the producers are making, textile companies are moving overseas, going to Dubai, going to UAE, going to other countries, Africa, and different nations to take advantage of their favorable tariff situation. Uh, electronics companies are on standby. They don't know what to do. They're gonna wait and watch. Unfortunately, textile industry hires a lot of people in India, so that's a bit of a problem. And why electronics industry is on a wait and watch move is because electronics and pharma are exempt from the tariff that US has currently laid on India. So about out of the 87 billion dollars that India exports to US, half of it is electronics and pharma, and that is yet not in the tariff ambit, right? So that's pretty much safe right now for now, but that's what it is. Speaking of China, India, and US, Mr. Donald Trump was asked whether he'll actually punish China the way he's punishing India for buying Russian oil, and he said he'll take a look at that. So he might just actually, you know, punish China as well. But that is not going to solve anything for India. Well, it is going to solve something, at least to a little extent, but not entirely. Our problems are our own. Now, the question is, what can India do to navigate through the waters, right? There's $100 billion at stake, which are going for to the toilet, right? A lot of it, you know, a lot of it can be absorbed by Europe, by UK. Let's say UK is a 20 billion play. If it goes up to like 30 billion, so a lot of these losses can be offset. But there's just one US, right? So there's just one US. So at this moment, the correct strategy seems to diversify out of India. The problem is that even if Indian companies and even if Indian traders, let's say, move out of India and start exporting from US, the country doesn't benefit. The country doesn't benefit. Even if the trade situation sort of gets handled, the country doesn't benefit because the only advantage India had or has is the number of people, right? Is the number of young working age people. India has the most number of young working age people. And that is sort of a double whammy right now because in the age of AI, the number of people required to do anything are going like down, right? And secondly, with these tariffs, the industries that can absorb those people are also looking out. So even if the industry manages to, let's say, preserve itself, growth of that industry will not be growth of the country or good for the country because people will not be able to get involved. So that is the situation right now. You know, uh, pretty damn confusing to say the least. What's not confusing is Indian Auto. Tata Motors earnings came out. Net falls 63%. But majorly it's because of a one-time gain that it had in the last quarter. Net, if you discount that, the quarterly fall in profit was 30%. It's basically Jaguar Land Rover JLR's concerns which are affecting because as viewers of Thinkers Frequency, uh, would remember we discussed how JLR contributes to 71% of Tata Motors revenue and 79% of its profits. So Tata Motors is essentially JLR, right? And JLR's troubles speak very loudly when it comes to financials are considered. So Tata Motors India business, basically nothing, right? Uh, Speaking of banking, SBI has done well. Its earnings are out. SBI surges 12%. Uh, 12% rise in net profit, placed by higher treasury income and growth in retail loans. So SBI is doing well, which is great. Uh, JK Tires are not so well. Some fall in profits, and Birla Grasim is also doing okay. So the quarterly earnings of the domestic people who are essentially involved in construction and stuff like that, which are government dependent, they've been reasonably well off. As we discussed, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how we talked about L&T, how we talked about EPC companies doing well. So once again, Grasim has done reasonably well. So that's for the market. That's for the market. Gen Z's travel agent, it's a bot with better ideas. So obviously, whenever you talk about AI, whenever an expert in AI explains AI, an agentic AI, what does he say? Have you ever heard Mr. Arvind Srinivas explain AI, or anybody explain AI essentially? Have you ever heard them? So the way they explain AI is by talking about agents, and the way they explain agents is by talking about a travel agent, right? On how a travel agent can essentially do some sort of planning and execution of it. So that's the number one example for AI based agentic behavior. That hey, if you were going from point A to B, uh, the agent can figure out the cheapest, most efficient, most convenient way, or let's say most exciting way for you to travel. Now that's starting to happen. Earlier, this used to be a domain of the blogs. You remember? The blogs, people used to look at the blogs, people's journeys, and so on and so forth. So people used to publish what they found out in their travel experiences, and then people followed those. That has been replaced by agentic behavior, which, again, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, is bad news for the writers, essentially, of that kind of news. So that's that. You know, let's move on. Slowly and steadily, we'll find out that AI's news related to AI becomes more and more profound, but at the same time, the companies developing AI will be downplaying their own sell. So, uh, until now, what happens is when you build a product and you want that product to sell, you start sort of hyping that product up, right? That you're hyping what it can do, what it cannot do, and how it's better than everything you've done before, and so on and so. That's usual sales, right? That you've created a product and you want that product to sell, so you're hyping it up. However, in the age of AI, you're gonna see something absolutely opposite. Now, this is supposed to be mind blowing, right? So you will appreciate the insight. It's gonna flip 180 with AI companies. So as time progresses, AI products will be doing more and more, while companies will be downplaying uh, what they can do. You know, can you guess why? Can you guess why? I'll take a sip. Think about it. Crazy insight. Never happened in the history of selling, but it's gonna happen. Can you guess why? The product will keep getting better and more, let's say, robust, effective, efficient, whatever you can call it, whatever is your metric of good. The product will keep getting that, but the creators of the product will be downplaying it. Can you guess? Can you guess why? You can guess why, right? Because they wouldn't want scrutiny. So they would want to escape scrutiny by essentially just downplaying what they've done. Just like Mr. Sam Altman talked yesterday, that we are getting better and our agents will be doing better. And somebody asked him, hey, what about the IT layoffs? And he said there's no evidence of that. Right? So scrutiny to avoid monopoly, says Mr. Patil. Laws. Laws is a better answer. Monopoly, not so much because there are multiple players, Mr. Patil. But the answer is scrutiny. There is going to be serious scrutiny, right? As far as these players are considered, they'd like to avoid that. And the first time in the history of human civilization, we'll see somebody downplaying their own product. while it just causes a fire, you know, everywhere. So never has this happened. And but you remember who told you first, right? Who told you first? Moving on, a lot of political chit chat. Man, it's just pathetic. Speaking of geopolitics, Brazil and India are exploring collaborations, DigiPay systems, solidarity from Brazilian leader. Now, Brazil used to have Bolsonaro as its leader. He was a right wing figure. Uh, Now, that right wing figure got ousted, you know, with the now center left, or let's say left wing leader. Some people say that that election wasn't fair, there was something wrong, but he got out, and now the left wing government of Brazil is actually doing a lawfare, you know, uh, tactic. Basically, they are lawfaring Bolsonaro, who's the right wing leader. Now, Trump has started sanctioning Brazil and has openly said that you can't be lawfaring Bolsonaro, right? If you do that, I'm gonna screw you up. Now, Brazil's existing leadership doesn't like that, which is essentially why Brazil is talking to India about helping them out, you know, because it's facing something like that in its own country. I mean, as far as treatment from US is considered. So India is facing a lot of challenges. It's meeting Russia, it's meeting China. Mr. Doval is going to meet Mr. Wang August 18th for the border talks. India, Brazil are talking, while China also talks to Bangladesh and Pakistan to screw India. Moving on. Mr. Patil says never happened. Why never happened? Now I explained this, Mr. Patil. You probably came late. This has never happened. No country, no company in the history, or no industry in the history has downplayed their role before. As you know, will BRICS come tight due to USA, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa? Yeah, so Trump was heavily against BRICS, has been against BRICS. BRICS wanted to start its own currency to de dollarize. Trump said, you're going to tariff. That could be a leverage point. So I'm just, whatever I'm thinking about this particular situation, I just think about what leverage does India have, you know? Can India essentially start attacking Pakistan to, you know, stop Trump from babbling and basically stop Trump from pressurizing India? Can India do something like BRICS, as Mr. Patil suggested? Can India essentially displace itself so that whatever losses it makes in the US market can be covered by other people? What can India do? So all options are on table, and the government is evaluating everything. However, it's not that simple. Mr. Chandrasekhar says, I believe the tariff situation will last till midterm elections in US, maybe. So the tariff situation will only last, as our prediction, which we made, which I very very openly stated, will last till Russia closes the war. Okay, as soon as Russia shuts down the war, we might just be seeing everything getting back, as far as India is considered. However, even that is not 100% sure, but that was the prediction that we laid down. Now the situation is that Russia is meeting US, and it won't stop uh, unless it gets what it wants. And you know, US wants the credit, so it's also not a very simple situation. But the war should stop, and that should basically help India. However, nothing is set in stone. Mr. Tarun says, not BRICS as a whole, as there are many members, just major or the founding ones might. Yeah, that's what the BRICS is. BRICS is an 11 nation alliance. I didn't know that. I thought BRICS was just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, right? But there's Saudi Arabia is also listed on the website, though it's not formally invited. Then there are other countries as well. So it's a pretty big block. Moving on. India seeks equal access to slots at European airports. So, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember we discussed this story that Indigo and other Indian airlines were sad that European airlines, European airport operators were not giving them slots. Slots are basically permissions to operate, land and launch and so on and so forth. So they had limited their slots. Now Amsterdam is a developed market, and it said we are decreasing our airlines, let's say traffic, because of noise pollution. Now what happens is India has, breached the earlier slot limits, and it's not getting new slots, and it's getting unfair because yeah, noise pollution. You're right, Mr. Jindal. So this particular thing happened, and Indigo cried foul, right? That this is unfair. These people are using whatever they have, and they're not giving us slots, and that's a problem. So what they said is that India should talk to the European system, right? The ICAO, which is an international association for whatever this is, and basically they are doing that. So India is responding very quickly as international civil aviation organizations, ICAO, if I can pronounce it well. So that's what's happening. They're saying that developing economies are getting hurt because developed economies are not helping them. When India has contributed to global aviation so much, we deserve the slots. So that's going on. Speaking of government response, government has responded to the BIS requirement exemption for medical devices. Now, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that the medical industry, the medical device manufacturing industry, is, they had said that whatever steel we import, it's very low quantity steel, because medical devices are a precision play, right? They're not a volume play. So they said that this BIS norm will screw us up. It's BS. BIS is BS. So please stop it, because we can't be running that kind of a regulatory overhang. It's gonna kill us. And that was yesterday, right? And the government gives BIS exemption to parts used in medical devices for now. And the industry says thank you so much for your prompt response, for your empathy, for responding to our genuine concern, and so on. So no BIS exemption for medical devices industry, who are importing very low quantity of a special kind of metal, steel essentially, and that's that. So government has been responding. Government has been trying their best to navigate through the crisis. Moving on, Biocon bullish on insulin biz, eyes GLP-1 drugs for growth. Every company essentially is looking at GLP. Biocon is no different. GLP is going to get flooded with a lot of generic drugs, as we discussed. As the patent expires next year, March, there's going to be a lot of GLP drugs, right, in the market. So nobody knows how that's going to pan out for people. We discussed how it's doubling down. It's already a 100 crore business in India, and it's gonna go up to 500 crores because every month it's doubling, right? So that's what's happening. Speaking of what's happening in the pharma space, it's very interesting because GSK said to get 500 million from settlement of an mRNA lawsuit. So what happened in that lawsuit was that there was a German company called CureVac, okay, that worked on mRNA, okay. Then Pfizer and BioNTech also worked on the COVID vaccine, okay. And then GSK tied up with CureVac for this vaccine. However, Pfizer and BioNTech essentially raced ahead, right? So they basically got there first. However, CureVac said that these people infringed on our patents. Okay, now that was what was happening. Now, CureVac has settled with Pfizer and BioNTech. So CureVac is going to get money from Pfizer and BioNTech for infringing on its patents, right? Now, GSK with CureVac gets the benefit because GSK is gonna get a payout with CureVac, right? Until now, you're clear? GSK, CureVac were making things. Pfizer and BioNTech were making things. Pfizer, BioNTech got ahead. CureVac sued these guys. These guys are settling with CureVac, but since CureVac worked with GSK, GSK also gets money. Okay, about $500 million, 370 plus 130. And then CureVac is also getting acquired by BioNTech. How was it? Did you like it? Did you like the flow? Do you understand the flow? Did it occur to you exactly what happened? BioNTech, GSK, CureVac. Oh, I'm sorry, I got it wrong, right? Yeah. One second. Yeah. CureVac, GSK, BioNTech, Pfizer. ठीक है? CureVac, GSK, BioNTech, Pfizer, both trying to create the vaccine. The Pfizer, BioNTech make it. CureVac sues these guys. GSK is a partner of CureVac. These guys settle. CureVac gets money. GSK gets money. But then CureVac is getting acquired by BioNTech. Very interesting case. Pretty interesting case. It's always nice to know such deals, right? How money flows. Speaking of money flows and speaking of understanding of things, we talked about how AC industry is gonna get hurt, right? Do you remember, folks? Early rains, good monsoons, were bad monsoons. Mr. Patil says from one pocket to another pocket. Right. So Voltas has reported its basic, its earnings 58% fall in profit due to uh, you know, early rains. So we talked about this. I hope you didn't have the stock of Voltas because we basically navigated this pretty well and pretty early. So we saw this coming when the story was developing. And then many days later, Havells came out with its earnings. There was an acquisition also which started happening in the AC space. The fridge companies also started showing bad results and Voltas. So we are right. It's always good to be ahead of the curve, right? It's good to be ahead of the curve. It's good to be able to be in a position where you can gain when the overall market is falling. Right? That's brilliant. Which reminds me of something Trump said. Okay, now this is a praise of Trump. So I'm sorry, but credit where it's due. So Hillary Clinton during a debate with Trump, this is during 2016, she said when the real estate market was falling, Donald Trump said that I hope it falls even more so I can buy a lot of land. So when the entire financial crisis was at the peak, this guy was hoping that it falls more so he can buy and benefit from it. This is the kind of person he is. And you know what he said? In the middle of her sentence, he said, "That's called business, by the way." And at that moment, he just won the election. That's called business, by the way. So if you can be in a position when the entire market is falling and you can make money, that's just extraordinary. It's not about making money, it's about intellectual satisfaction as well, that you can essentially navigate through the crisis. You know how Zerodha could fund itself? Zerodha is a bootstrapped company, right? Zerodha is the most successful startup ever in India. Nobody comes close to the success that Zerodha has, and Zerodha essentially funded itself in the beginning, right? Hi, I'm not sure. Somebody, hi, can you hear me? Somebody called me, and due to which my check your mic. Can you hear me, folks? I'm sorry about this. Can you hear me? Yes, it's audible now. Sorry about that. Somebody called me. I don't know why somebody would call me at this hour. If anybody knows me, they know what I do, right? 8 to 9. But I'm sorry about that. So what I was saying was, what was the last thing you heard from me? I'm not sure where you lost me. So can you tell me exactly what was the last thing you heard? Zerodha bootstrapping. Okay. So you know how Zerodha could fund itself. So in 2008, when the markets were crashing, when the markets were really going down in 2008, Zerodha was short. Mr. Nitin Kamas was short on the market. Right before the peak of it, right before the like big crash, October 2077, I guess, he was heavy on the short. So he was ahead of the market. So he was amongst all the traders. He was a trader just like everybody else, but he was heavily short on the market. So when everybody essentially lost a lot of money, like he made money 10 times over, in crores, many, many crores. So that's how they could bootstrap themselves. They really got rich when the 2008 market crash happened. So, it pays to be ahead of the curve. Moving on, Stephen Miran, yeah, okay. Have always worked within ethical standards, says Intel CEO. Now, you remember, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how, you know, uh, Mr. Trump, Donald Trump, no Mr. Trump right now. Anyway, Donald Trump said that Intel CEO must resign. He's conflicted because he has invested like $200 million in the last 10 years in companies, in Chinese companies. Now he said that he's divested all of those earnings, but then records said that those investments are current. He's saying that I've sent them all information now, and I've always worked in the highest legal and ethical, with highest legal and ethical standards. So that's what he says, and let's see what happens with Intel. Intel is in a very very big trouble kind of a situation. If something wrong happens with Intel right now, uh, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. The company is essentially gonna die. Miss Akshaya says, couldn't hear you still. Can you hear me now, Miss Akshaya? My audio is working. It's just that it got stuck. Please comment if you can hear me now. I hope you can hear me now. I think you should be able to hear me now. Anyway, moving on. I'm just waiting for a comment, but okay, I'll move on. I'm sure she can hear me, hopefully. So, government is withdrawing the income tax bill. There was a lot of confusion as far as the whole income tax play is considered. So they had created bills, there had been revisions, and so on and so forth. So that particular thing is getting a reset button, and it's beginning to make a new draft to be tabled on Monday. Fresh version to incorporate 566 panel suggestions. Just imagine 566 panel suggestions. Speaking of suggestions, 50% US tariff on Indian goods could shave 0.3% of GDP in FY26. 0.3% of GDP in FY26, says Moody's. So, I don't think these people have the entire context of what can happen when $100 billion worth of exports get affected. And it's what people fail to essentially incorporate in their analysis is the second order effect. So they don't see that it's not just 100. One second, Miss Akshaya says Zeroda, but still not being able to hear you. I could see from the captions you're talking about. Oh no, why is that? The mic is on. It's a problem with LinkedIn, folks. I'm sorry about this. So I should be able to. Is it less volume? What is it? Or maybe there's some delay as far as, because LinkedIn has some latency, right? So maybe it's that. because the connection is fine, the conversation is okay, the mics are okay. Yeah, fine. You can continue. Oh, thank you so much. I hope you could hear the whole Zerodha benefiting from the short, right? So ask people on LinkedIn if they can join YouTube, says Mr. Tarun. Well, Miss Akshaya, Mr. Tarun has a very good suggestion. You can join YouTube, it's much better, right? So, moving on. 50%. So, what people don't understand when Moody's and when these JP Morgans of the world, they come out with their, analysis, what they don't account for are the second order effects, right? It's not just the present $100 billion. It's not just the present $44 billion. It's what the future had in store, right? Because the market is all about the future, right? The investments are all about the future. The capex is all about the future, right? The hirings are all about the future. And that future is based on an assumption. It's based on a projection. And if that projection falls apart, you don't know how things change. So it's not just going to be 0.3% of the GDP, right? Because that's what you realize. Oh, India is a $4.2 trillion economy. $40 billion dollars is 1%. 1%, 0.1%. If it goes, it's just going to be a 0.3% shave off. No, it's not that. There are cascading effects of things which are very, very troublesome. So what they are saying is that countdown to 50% duty, oil dependence and costs, and so on and so forth. If India stopped buying Russian oil, the fuel import bill would be $9 billion. That's that. So it's pretty complicated right now. Moving on. ICICI Bank shuns the mass bets on the rich. ICICI has increased its minimum balance requirement to be 50,000 rupees. So at a time when essentially banks are going away from the minimum balance requirement, ICICI is raising it to 50,000 bucks. Why? Because it's probably seeing that whatever growth happens in the country right now, even in the banking space, will not happen at the bottom of the pyramid. At least at the down, bottom line level. So they're focusing on the rich. They're essentially moving towards catering to the top of the strata, which is bad news for the country yet again, right? This should not be the agenda. At this moment, all the banks were looking at reducing the minimum balance. SBI had put it to 0 because they said it's going to make it easier for people to invest, let's say in FDs or keep money in the banks because they were going to equities. ICICI says screw all that. We're just going to go for the top rung, which is, trouble. Bank credit growth slows, deposits stay steady in FY26. Lower corporate loan demand, rise in market-linked borrowings, weigh on credit expansions. Banks now bet on the festive season. A lot rests on the festive season for this economy because that's where the domestic consumption play hits. Lower corporate loan demand. Now, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember why the corporate loan demand is reduced. Do you remember why corporate loan demand is reduced, folks? We talked about this, right? We talked about this. Can you remember why the banks are not being able to lend to corporates as well as they used to? You remember? We talked about this. We talked about it, right? Because companies' earnings were going up, and with those rising earnings, companies were being able to borrow money with corporate bonds, right? So they didn't need banks. A lot of corporate borrowing was happening using corporate notes, the banks, the bonds, which was essentially trouble for banks, right? Because if corporates can have like their papers, it's bad news for banking. So that's what's happening. One of those things. Deposits are steady right now. Deposits are okay. Moving on. Bharti Airtel promoter has sold 0.9%, as discussed. It was announced that he's going to sell it. I was supposed to sell it like 9,300 crore, 0.9%, but he sold almost 1%, and two tranches netting 11,227 crores. So that's huge. That's a pretty big sum. Moving on, Mr. Chandrasekhar has a comment. I lost 1,500 rupees in Canada bank charges. I wasn't even aware due to technical languages they used to send. They say you have to come home branch to close. Left me no choice. Yeah, yeah, that's what. But now Canada Bank is amongst the banks which has, moved away from the minimum balance uh, strategy. Moving on, PM E-Drive scheme gets extra mileage to roll on till 2027. So the E-Drive scheme is a subsidy incentive scheme and so on and so forth. It's rolling on to the next year because it hasn't been utilized as completely as of now. The center has extended the validity of the scheme for 2 years. The Gazette notification said the scheme will now lapse in 2028 March instead of 2026. Fund allocation scheme has been maintained at 11,000 crores, 10,900 crores. So that's that. Moving on. 100 gigawatt nuke drive gains momentum. 100 gigawatt nuke drive gains momentum. Now, viewers of Thinker's Frequency would remember how we've been gunning for nuclear energy, how we say that nuclear energy is the next frontier and that's going to change everything for everybody. Unfortunately, there is no stock in India to, buy for nuclear. So that's very sad. But I hope something gets listed because nuclear is the way to go. In the next 10 years, 15 years, let's not think that far. Why 10 years? 10 years is BS. But just next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see nuclear really, really kicking it, as far as prospects are considered. Gold prices are up, 1,03,420 rupees per 10 grams. Silver is also 1,15,000 per kg. Why is this happening? Now, viewers of Thinker's Frequency would remember this is happening because central banks of different countries are hoarding gold, like they're buying gold because things don't seem to be stable right now, right? So that's that. Moving on. Oil prices steeply weekly loss. Japan component company Murata begins shipping from Chennai facility. That's beautiful. Banks are saying expect U-shaped recovery in margins, in the net interest margins. We've talked about this. Net interest margins have come down because of RBI reduced the repo rate. Now that repo rate means the interest rates come down. Interest rate come down, but deposit rates stay intact. The margins get crunched. The deposit rates also have to come down, which is what's going to happen in a couple of quarters or 3 quarters, which is what this person is saying. SETI, Mr. SETI. Mr. SETI is one of the leaders of the banking world. Which company does he work with? Chairman Chairman CS SETI. He must be from the ICICI play. No, one second. SBI. Yeah. So that's that. Margins will recover, but we've already said that, right? We've already, we said it 2 months ago. So ahead of the curve yet again. And that is that. That is that. That's what we have, ladies and gentlemen, for today. We come to the end of the 76th episode. They recently did a meta-analysis, by the way. A meta-analysis saying that aerobics and weight training are good for treating depression and anxiety. Now, how they could have saved some money on that meta-analysis, right? And how could have they just avoided doing that meta-analysis? A way, right? Exercise, which is weight training, resistance training, and aerobics, are good for anxiety and depression. Any ways they could have saved some money there? Well, they could have just asked me. And or they could have just asked you. as Mr. Tarun said, by now they could just ask the viewers of Thinkers Frequency. Just so awesome. This is great. I had a lovely time talking. Pay Nishant, says Mr. Tarun. Mr. Tarun, thank you. You're one of my well-wishers, by the way. This is great. You always talk about paying me, which is so nice. Speaking of paying me, you know what happened yesterday? Yesterday something crazy happened. So, I have this donation link, right? Whenever I write some articles on my website, there's this lower, I have a subline which says, you read a hopefully valuable article for free, so you could make donations if you want. Nothing good is free and neither it should be. So I got a 10,000 rupee donation from a very big finance influencer who read my post on Lenskart, the IPO, that analysis, that huge analysis where I had written that Lenskart is really overselling itself. It's basically being very opportunistic and a very, let's say, it's almost unbelievable that it's valuing itself at $10 billion when it should be valued at 3.5 to $5 billion. Now, this person, I wouldn't name him, of course, great person, but he donated money and he said, I'm going to use this story and create a video and educate my 1.5 crore audience who follows me for finance and so on. So I'm going to protect retail investors. That's just incredible, right? That article really, a lot of people actually donated a lot of money after reading that article. I got like some 45,000 rupees in donations just because people read that and some other articles. It's amazing. That article really helped people. And you know what? After that article got viral and after that article got like really well known in the finance circuit, Lenskart reissued a public statement where it said it's not going to be looking at a $10 billion valuation. It's going to be looking at an $8 to $9 billion valuation, which essentially means that that article forced the company to relook at its valuation and decrease it by $2 billion. So that article essentially saved 16,000 crore rupees of retail investors in India. One article worth 16,000 crore rupees. Aggrandizing, yes, but not entirely wrong, right? It's just how it is. But it isn't over yet. I think the company should be launching its IPO at a valuation of about $5 to $6 billion, right? So there's scope for another 16,000 crores to get saved for the retail investors with that article. Now, when that happens, when I would have saved like 32,000 crores of retail investors, I would be very happy. But would I have been making any money off those 32,000 crore rupees? I unfortunately not. But as they say, hope is a very good thing. Maybe the best of all. And I hope that some of that water falls on me, right? With that, had a lovely time talking. Mr. Tarun, Mr. Jindal, Mr. Chandrasekhar, Mr. Patil, Miss Akshaya, and everybody else. It was really nice. Enjoy your weekend. It's 9:03. We're gonna punch in anytime. Our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis. Right before we punch in, we're gonna punch in anytime soon. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally, and I'm gonna see you tomorrow. Hopefully the same time, same place. Bye bye. Have a beautiful day.